there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, as you can probably tell, we're going to talk about this really cool, kind of funky rhythm groove that Stevie Ray Vaughan does in the song Tightrope. I've always really enjoyed this particular song, and it's nice to kind of get to use something that's got a little bit of funk to it. It's just an unusual feel for us as blues players, and kind of maybe, you know, dips a toe into the rock category a little bit. But you know, guys like Freddie King also made a huge, it was a huge part of their sound, was that sort of funk element. So let's kind of break it down really quick. Now you could do this with a totally clean tone, but I have just a little bit of overdrive on there. My blues driver's on with the unity level, but the gain is way down at around 10 o'clock. Just enough to make it compress. It just evens out the sound a little bit. I'm using the neck pickup here on the Strat. The chord that I'm using now, and admittedly Stevie Ray Vaughan probably would have reached around and played this with his thumb. That's not super comfortable for me, so I'm going to show you both ways. It's a B9 chord. Now, also remember that Stevie Ray Vaughan tuned down a half step. I'll be the first to admit, I can't remember if it sounds like B or he plays it in B and it sounds like B flat. So I might have this off by 1 fret, depending on how you want to look at it. It's just one of those things with tuning in E flat versus tuning standard. I can never remember, where things are at. But my middle finger is here on the B. I'm playing a B9 chord, right? It's the same as that, but I'm going to voice it up here. So my middle finger is going to be on that 7th fret B on the 6th string. It's going to kill out the 5th string for me. I don't want the 5th string to ring. My first finger needs to play the 3rd string on the 6th fret. But it can just kind of lay there. And the reason is because my 3rd finger is going to sneak in and get the 4th string 7th fret, while my pinky is going to sneak in and get the 2nd string 7th fret. So even though I'm strumming all of the strings, notice that 2 of them don't ring out. And that's on purpose. Now, again, you could switch this around. I could put my first finger would stay on the 3rd string. My 3rd finger would go to that 2nd string, 7th fret. My middle finger will handle that 4th string, and I can reach my thumb around. For some people, that's going to be, a good way for them to do it. Like I said, it's not super comfortable for me. If you do this, your middle finger kind of has to handle the muting of the 5th string. And that's just, again, that's just not comfortable for me. And I apologize, I've got a little fret buzz there, clearly, that is new. So I'll get to work on that. But the changing weather. Anyway, so there's a little bit of buzz there. My apologies. Okay, so what we're gonna be doing here is thinking about 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what I want you to get used to doing is sort of going back and forth between the low string and the top, the chord. So when I hit the low string, I'm going to push down with that middle finger and I'm going to kind of relax my other 3 fingers. So right now, only that low string, I'm hitting everything, okay? But the only thing that's actually going to ring out is the low string. When I reverse, those 3 strings are going to ring out, but nothing on the low end is going to ring out. So I'm going to kind of go to the low end, 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and That's where this really comes to, the work is in counting and getting your right arm to keep moving. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so notice there's a little bit of a tricky one in there. 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and and this is like the bare bones of it right here. So if you can get this going, then we can add in some of the details. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and so notice that I'm only hitting those low notes on the first two hits. 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay. So if you can do that, it becomes pretty easy to add in these sort of X strums. So anytime I'm not striking, so if I take that bass move, right? 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and that's what I call the bass of this rhythm. Now what I'm going to do is after beat 1, beat 1's not going to change. 1 E and I'm still going to keep doing that. But now from 2 on, I'm instead of not hitting anything, 2 E and I'm going to just relax my hand completely and strike the strings. I call them X strums because they look like an X in the notation. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and that's not actually right. 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Now, the final detail here is we have to make this have a little bit of a lope to it. So instead of 1 E and 2 E and believe me, take this in stages. Get to where you can do that first. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and what we're going to do is we're going to make the E and the have a swing. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 2 E and 3 E and 4 E. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. So adding that little bit of shuffle to a 16th note pattern creates what really is groups of 6. You're breaking each beat into 6 pieces. 1 triplet and triplet, 2 triplet and triplet. That's just really hard to count. It would be prohibitive. I mean, if you think of all the things you would have to say, it's just really, really challenging. It's easier to get really comfortable playing something like that very straight. If you can play that sort of bass pattern perfectly straight, 1 E and 2 E and 3, and you can play it comfortably and you can count it and you can nail it, you're not going to have that much trouble adding a little bit of a shuffle to it. It's not that much of a leap. You might notice there's other things. Sometimes he strikes on beat 2, he strikes twice. Sometimes you might hear a strum in a different place somewhere else. I promise that if you can comfortably play through what I've shown you as sort of this bass rhythm figure, right? This 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1 and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. I promise you that if you can do that, you'll be able to add those little subtle details or variations whenever you want. It's not going to be an issue. Okay, so please don't get hung up on, oh, that's not exactly like it is on the record in measure 27 when he does this thing. I know that. Don't worry about that. That's not what's important. That's what we call losing the forest for the trees. If you can play this rhythm very comfortably and very easily, then you can worry about that little detail that happens in whatever measure or whatever pass. Okay, it's not going to be a problem, I promise. All right, so spend some time with this. It's not super difficult if you count it and take your time. If you don't, if you try to play this and think, oh, I don't need to count it, I'm just going to play it along with him, I can just about promise you it isn't going to work out. So please don't do that to yourself. Get on board early and often. Get the counting train going. Just start counting and get that going. I promise it'll make it easier. It may be a little bit more frustrating at first. It may feel like you're taking some steps back. In the long run, it's going to be way better. All right, so as always, hope you dig the video. Hope you try it out. Share it with guitar playing friends if you so desire, if you think they would dig it. I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Talk to you soon.